meeting here is being recorded and will be shared afterwards on our project site for you to review or share with your colleagues or other relevant stakeholders. So today, Ola Laskova from Tieto Every will present a use case called Parts in EqHub. So this is really fundamentally an EqHub feature, a standalone, but it will be used and fits into the overall SPIR project as well. So thank you, Ola. You may now start.
Hello, everyone. Yes, as Andre mentioned, it's our new feature which is coming to EqHub soon. Right now, it's on test environment and is under testing, but it still can be demonstrated to you. So today we have our fourth session from 7. And it's a totally live demo without any mockups. So quick recap from the last session. Last time we talked about tag index registration part and connection it with a project. And what we would like to highlight one more time, that one tag index list, we count for one project. The package information is taken from the tag index. And one package is like one SPIR, one-to-one. And the EqHub ID provided for a tag with a tag index will be a start point for providing material data by the data providers, by supplier company. So I guess now I will start demo.
I can also just say, sorry, Ola, to interrupt. When you have questions, as before, please save them till last. You can write them in the chat as well, but there should be some time at the end where we can ask questions and go back to what Ola is showing now.
Yeah. Yes, please. Questions. We appreciate the questions. So I have created on the test environment test product, test EqHub ID. And for that EqHub ID, I have provided only one document, which is important in our context for providing part list information. This document has a category detail cross-sectional drawing with part list. And it's also a test document in PDF format, which will allow us to open it in our viewer. I will show how exactly. So we can start from several places of the page to create our part list. We have left panel, which says that we don't have any parts yet. And by pressing the button, we go to a new tab of the product details page, which is called parts. Here we can provide our part information. And here we can see the document that have been attached to that product with category detail cross-sectional drawings with part lists. And as long as this is PDF, we can view this document by pressing, oh, yeah, I was too fast. Once again. Yeah, here you can see the drawing and the part list actually within this document. But this part list you can provide in EqHub and reuse it for other your products and import, export, whatever you want. So by pressing the edit button, we can see that there are two ways at least to provide this information. We can do it manually one by one, like creating, adding the information for each part. The mandatory field here is part description and quantity. So when you add the required information, at least you can save the list and you will see the part under the document. Also, when you go back to the edit mode, you're able to import this information from the template. I have prepared template with info in advance, but you can get the template to complete by pressing this button for download template, or you can press this one. So you will get your template on your computer and would fulfill it with information. I have prepared in advance, and I will show you right now how it looks like. So here we have all fields that can be provided information to. And on the separate tab of this Excel sheet, we can see a short guide for each field, what is required, how the system will use this information, how it will be shown. So right now I can import this template to show you how it works.
Huh? I know.
The file is uploaded. The system processed the file, and I know that the system suggests me to add 7 items from this file. Exactly how much I put it, how many. So you can see new 7 parts have been added, plus mine, which I have added manually previously. And I can save this information, and it's available under my document here on the parts tab. Also, the information is available on the left panel, as you can see. And you, as data provider of this particular product, can edit it anytime and with no dependency on which state your product is. It can be done also for approved product, so it's up to you when you would like to add this information. Except the lists that could be tied to specific document, there is a possibility to provide parts without document reference. But instead, you should provide the name for this list. For example, like this. And the same options you have here. You can provide information manually, or you can import it. I will just demonstrate you how I can copy the rows and add 3 parts manually. 3 special tools in this case. So you have your list. You can find it both, and if you have even more, you will find all of them on the left panel, like this. If you are not a data provider, not an editor, you will see the same information, but without edit possibility, of course. Also, you can export your lists, actually. So you will get a report. It will look like that. All the information is here. Part list with connected to the document, and special tool list. Everything is here. What can you do more, even more? You can edit your list on fly. You can add more parts. I will just demonstrate you that I would like to add 7 more. Okay. Just delete it. Save. You're able to clean up your list, add more, so anytime it can be done. If your product revision is in draft state, you actually have one more possibility to provide the parts. For example, you just started the product registration, and you are on the Documents tab and provided a detailed cross-sectional drawings part with part list. So here you have explanation. The system suggests you to provide this information right here. And by pressing the button, you just have to choose in which way you would like to add your parts, manually, for example, or with template. And it's the same interface, which will allow you to provide this information, save it, and it will be available on the product when you will save your draft. So that's probably it. I would like just to add that some products which have been created in old EqHub system, also some of them have parts, and those parts information is migrated in a new format here, but I will not demonstrate it to you right now. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Ola. Very nice. We have a couple of questions here. Maybe Geir, you can just speak out the question, and then Henning can add on, starting from the top.
My question was if you can upload spare parts without having an EqHub ID and connecting them to the tags in the tag index. I think you mentioned something that the tags will anyways get a dummy EqHub ID. So I guess you can then upload it to that, or how will that work?
Yeah. It will work in this way. So you anyways have to generate a new EqHub ID, but everything that is expected, just provide the document for this ID, and you can use this information. You just put the parts on this level, and they will be reflected on your SPIR.
So if you upload the tag index, all these tags, if they are not an EqHub, they will get a dummy EqHub ID. Without need...
not automatically, but suppliers should should generate and suggest. I will show you on the next, I guess, next session. Yeah, how it will work.
I also want to clarify. So if that's also your question, so just to make this clear, that what Ola is showing now is actually a standalone feature in EqHub. So if we forget about SPIR, and how that is going to work, this feature here is accessible to every data provider or manufacturer who has access to equipment in EqHub. If they want to populate with their own parts, irrespective of what's going to happen in a SPIR setting, they are free to do that. What SPIR is going to do is to utilize this populated data, and if an EqHub ID specifically is added into SPIR, with associated part information, that will be potentially reflected in this part also. So there are two different things, but we wanted to show you because it is relevant going forward also, this in terms of the SPIR project and how that's going to work.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, yeah, I understood that this is a general feature in a way in EqHub. You can add parts to an EqHub ID, but I thought it was also related to the SPIR process now. So I wanted to ask if it was a requirement to do this, but we know that all tags will not have an EqHub ID, so we need to also be able to connect tags without having a full approved EqHub ID.
Yes, and that's going to happen in the SPIR solution when you populate you put in your tag index. What happens with what we call an ID is there's going to be some kind of placeholder, created, and that will be an EqHub ID, but it will not be subject to the same requirements that EqHub expects, in terms of populating metadata or documents. So there will be generated an ID so that it's possible to find back and reuse the thing you have put into the SPIR import.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
Henning. Henning asks here if it should be a mandatory requirement for suppliers to upload spare parts as part of the main equipment data document. So, and if yes, which spare part data attribute requirements should apply? This is a good question. EqHub alone and SPIR solution alone and the people behind that is not going to make that decision. But as we have discussed before, this is something we need to look into and decide on together with the industry. So there are several things happening outside of the EqHub sphere related to requirements in these services and in the industry. And I think when we do SPIR, we need to have that discussion soon, but the decision can come a bit later. And then see Roy, also you have your hand up. Maybe Roy, you can ask first.
Yes, Roy Falke, Equinor. Just the question, when you upload it from a template, seems like the unit of measure was an optional field. And my question is, why is that? Because unit of measure will always be mandatory in the ERP systems.
Knut, do you
Yes.
want-
I can answer that. Yeah. So I think for what you have on parts, maybe you don't have unit of measure on the part list, but when you get into SPIR, you definitely need to have a unit of measure on the items that you're actually going to procure. So so it'll be mandatory when you add the commercial data, but at this level where you just getting the structure of all the parts, we haven't made it mandatory yet, at least, but it will be when it gets into the SPIR view kind of thing. Yeah.
Okay,
Good clarification.
thank you.
Yngve, I don't know if you still have your hand up.
Yeah, no, it's just these requirements. So it's a good question from Roy. So just on the overall picture, we have decided in Offshore Norge to establish a data governance council, and that council will then support the processes of deciding what should be a requirement in EqHub, which standard should we follow, and so on. So that will make these kind of discussions easier, because then we know where to ask the questions, you know. So I agree with you, Roy, that this definitely should be part of the data and the mandatory stuff, but there's no at the moment there's no standard that is pointing that this should be a requirement. So this is something that we will develop going forward, and improve this and make it more you know, intuitive, and improve the requirements in EqHub. So it's something that we are working on.
Good. I just want to add also to Roy's question. So part of the philosophy with this EqHub input or ingestion of part data, you know, which is an optional thing that the data provider can do, we didn't want to make too many barriers either for making them actually want to do this. So the idea is that we start now with a fairly open and accessible interface where they can populate what they have. Like Ola also demonstrated, with special tools, you know, kind of free text. And over time now we will see, and we will encourage them to do this, of course, but we will have data. That's the most important thing to get. And then we need to restrict, you know, at some point to make the quality not all over the place. But there's a reason also why we don't put all of these fields mandatory. We want them to start using this, and then we can tighten the different parts as we go along, and understand more what the users need and what obstacles they face, or what they really want in terms of this feature. This feature, not SPIR, so this EqHub parts and EqHub feature. Then we have a question, I think, from Karina. You're asking where can one find the part numbers for the spare parts? So maybe, is your mic working? Can you maybe, you're talking about this exact view here, or?
Yes. And the template, does it include the part numbers for the spare parts?
Yeah, it's included, but it's optional. So if you have this information, you could add this. If not, then not.
Yeah, but it doesn't
the
show in
mandatory
this view,
No,
right? No.
no, it's shown in template. Which
Sorry,
we will-
just to clarify. So on the left side, you see the part number, right?
This one.
Oh, sorry. I didn't see it.
Yeah, that's where it is. So as populated by the one providing the data, if they say that this part number 1 is 2324, it's going to be represented like this. And Ola also showed you can export, and you can see this in an Excel grid or Excel table as well. But yeah, the part numbers here.
Yep.
Any other questions from anyone in the room?
I had one. I think you jumped over one.
Oh, sorry. Not intentional.
No. I was thinking this is of course related mostly to when you're working with the SPIR, but still this functionality might come in. If you have prepared a list of SPIRs referring to several EqHub IDs, can you upload that list to all these EqHub IDs, or do you need to split it into, let's say you have 10 EqHub IDs, do you have to upload 10 times or 10 lists, or can you take all the 10 lists in one go?
I think for now it's possible to do like Ola has described, but it's a nice thing to look into maybe for the upcoming months, maybe if it has yes, it's a good. It's not going to be delivered now in the first go, but we improve the solution and the features as we go along together with you, as we've always done. So that's a good point, Geir.
Yeah.
Henning?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Good. This is just minor details, but for the recommended spares quantity, I think it's important to emphasize there are two different requirements coming into the SPIR. One is for the commissioning phase, one is for operational phase, which is often two different requirements, which I think should also reflect the recommendation in here.
Yeah.
I can reply.
Yep.
So this recommended spares, it's only in the context of EqHub ID, and it actually can be extended. If you need 2 fields, we can of course provide it. But in SPIR, we for now do not use this information and this quantity, because we haven't decided yet which will be the master. You know, if you put the list of parts in SPIR and change the quantity from SPIR to SPIR, for the same list, should this one will be changed or what? So we just not use this information for now. This, what have been added in EqHub stays in EqHub. In SPIR you have separate columns, of course, for commissioning and as you mentioned, those columns.
Of course, you're right. That's where the actual recommendation should be. Yes, in here. Yep.
But it could be it's a good point still, and this is also back to if the supplier or the data provider knows what kind of typical the number of parts they recommend, of course let them provide it here, irrespective of a SPIR process. So if they do that, great, and then we can find a way now in the future to use that and help them with the SPIR input processes as well if they have provided here. But for now, it's just harvesting the data when or if it's seen as relevant to provide that for the data provider. But we could potentially also think about maybe highlighting it, so that there's less confusion to make it more clear in the tooltip for this column that, in terms of SPIR, there will be a different, this is not that, this is just the general recommended quantity if they have. So thank you for that, Henning. Okay, we are really good on the time here, I think. So these half an hours are pretty spot on. If no more questions now, we will conclude. And as before, this will be made available. And the next session, Ola, is next week already. Can you take us through the very brief introduction of what this is about?
Yeah, this session next week will be about suppliers' input into SPIR. So we will show how the EqHub ID will be suggested by suppliers so that it could be put in the tag index and used for, again, by supplier to provide the commercial information for the parts, for the SPIR items in this case.
This is a two-parter, right? So the fifth session now is the delegation and contribution, and the next one, number 6, is going to be the evaluation, and then we do the demo at the 7th and the final step.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Thank you all for joining. This will be uploaded and made available to you and your colleagues and others. Thanks for your input and participation in this. It's really helpful.
Yeah.
Have a good weekend, guys, and see you next week.
See you.
Thank you. Good.
Thank you so much. Very
Bye-bye.
good.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.